This just in, breaking news, our top story tonight. With the entire country of Italy on lockdown, some people are going to extreme measures to escape the quarantine. Next up, Italy applauds soccer fans for not showing up to games. Hey guys, I'm always happy to do my part. In other news, Carson announces a 72-hour plan for tomorrow's cruise ship docking. It doesn't take a brain surgeon to do that math. Also, clergy in DC are suspected of having spread the coronavirus to over 500 people who attended church. You know, it reminds me of what my dad always told me. Don't let priests touch you. And finally tonight, a new dating app for men with small penises. Not that I would need something like that. I have a girlfriend. All of this and more tonight on whatever we're calling this show. Right as I was wrapping up my video yesterday, the Italy situation broke, so I wanted to lead with that today because this is a serious move the Italians have made. According to the latest numbers out of Italy, we're looking at just over 10,000 confirmed cases, with over 600 deaths, including 170 just today, and 1,000 people who've recovered from the virus. Now, again, you have to take these numbers with a grain of salt because these are only confirmed cases. So you might see that and think, oh wow, 6% of people die from the coronavirus. That's simply not the case. This is only of the people that have confirmed cases. When people die, they almost always know that it was the coronavirus. And when you have the coronavirus, you might not know it. If you have mild symptoms, you might just think it's a normal flu. So because of this, it's hard to really accurately track that number. And what this leads me to believe is that Italy's testing has not been up to par. However, it could also be because their healthcare system has really not done a good job of taking care of people, and this has really rapidly escalated over the last several weeks. Here we can see the number of cases and deaths in Italy over time, and as you can see, only just a couple of weeks ago, in fact 2.5 weeks ago or so, we saw only 20 cases in Italy, yet that has spiraled all the way up to its current situation of being over 10,000. So you can see this thing ramps up pretty aggressively, and that's because it is a virus and it is fairly contagious. It might not seem like a big deal when there are only 20 cases, but it could be because of lack of testing, or it could be that those 20 people have gone out and been around or touched tons of people, and then it can spread very quickly. The good news for Italy is that for the first day in some time, there's been a sharp drop off in the total number of cases. However, deaths actually had their worst day ever today, and that makes sense because people need to reach critical condition before they're going to die. And so you're going to see this lagging effect where while cases might drop, deaths increases, but then it will eventually follow cases because less people are going to be in critical condition. Regionally speaking, the northeast part of Italy has by far and away the most cases, but it has spread. The northwest has a decent chunk of them as well, and in South Italy, they start to see some cases pop up too. So this probably went into the decision to quarantine the entire country rather than just these northeastern provinces. The effects of this surge in cases have been felt in many different parts of Italian life, such as in the prison system. Prisoners rioted and used this sort of as a moment to fight against the overcrowding in prisons, where this iconic photo was taken. Prisoners feel that if this does hit critical mass, they're so closely quartered with other people and there's so little space in these prisons that they're almost certainly going to be hit the hardest of many groups. And that actually is true if there's overcrowding in these prisons. However, I do think this was more of a moment that they took to try and stand up for the overcrowding rather than maybe specifically fears of the coronavirus hurting them themselves, but you really never know. In one of the largest riots, 6 inmates broke into the prison infirmary and overdosed on methadone. In some areas, prisoners had even escaped. In the area Foggia, and I apologize already for my butchering of that Italian word, at least 50 escaped inmates made it out, although over 40 have been captured and brought back to prison. The nationwide quarantine isn't an absolute ban where no travel is allowed under any circumstances, but it is a fairly expansive one. Essentially, you're only allowed to travel for work or for family emergencies, and all sporting events have been canceled. There was another story coming out of Italy that caught my eye, which was a malfunction that caused red wine to flow from faucets in an Italian town. Apparently, a malfunction at a local winery caused 1,000 liters of ready-to-be bottled wine to leak into the water pipes, meaning that it would just come out of the faucets and shower heads. Now, you might be wondering, how could something like this possibly have happened? And really, there's only one explanation. Thoughts and prayers do work. Speaking of God, the story broke yesterday over on Twitter where Sam Sweeney tweeted saying, a DC priest has coronavirus. He offered communion and shook hands with more than 500 worshipers last week and on February 24th. All worshippers who visited the Christ Church in Georgetown must self-quarantine. Church is canceled for the first time since the 1800s. Following the incident, the church reminded everyone that while they might not have service for the first time in 2 centuries, God doesn't take time off. And neither does the collection plate. Although I'm thinking maybe we're going to take Venmo or Bitcoin over cash. Yeah, you guys can keep the cash for now. Let's do this digitally. In response to the event, Vice President Mike Pence has stepped in with some new guidelines for communion. Yeah, that's definitely going to work. But this whole story has a lot of people upset. You can't even go to the Lord's house, to church, and feel like you're going to be safe there. When reached for comment, a local altar boy said, "Oh sure, now church isn't a safe place." Moving on to our next story, the cruise ship industry has been facing some stormy seas. Because of this, Carnival Cruise Lines has come up with an interesting offer. They're offering free drinks to guests who don't cancel. And I don't know about you, but I know exactly what I'm drinking.
Every time 4 o'clock is close enough to 5, a Corona gets its lime.
But if you're worried about cruise ships and how that's going to play out with the rest of the population, let's take a look at a quick interview Ben Carson did just the other day.
As you know, the Grand Princess is docking, the cruise ship is docking in Oakland tomorrow. What plan is in place to deal with the 3,500 people on board?
The cruise ship personnel, and as you know, the Vice President met with the CEOs of the major cruise ship companies yesterday. And they are coming up with a plan within 72 hours of that meeting.
The ship's docking tomorrow.
The plan will be in place by that time.
Hold on, I'm going to have to dig a little deeper on this. So we've got a boat docking. This is going to be like a nice boat. Okay, it's a nice boat here. Got a little slide on. Okay, boat docking. Here's the ocean. Okay. And then here is the dock. All right. So this is going to be the dock. Okay. This is where they come onto the land. All right. But here's the thing. It's going to be tomorrow, so in 24 hours. But the plan is going to take 3 days. These are clocks. Yeah, I'm not sure how this is supposed to work. This looks bad, but Ben Carson has an ace up his sleeve. He's not afraid to play it.
The ship's docking tomorrow.
The plan will be in place by that time, but I don't want to preview the plan right now.
Shouldn't you be able to do that?
I think it needs to all come from a solitary source. We shouldn't have 16 people saying what the plan is.
Okay,
particularly when it hasn't been fully formulated.
That's right, guys. How's he supposed to say the plan if it hasn't even been formulated yet? It makes you think. With how happy Ben Carson looks when he thinks about this, all I can think about is this is the image playing in his head right now.
Particularly when it hasn't been fully formulated.
So it is starting to look like now might not be the best time for people to go on vacation on a cruise ship, as opposed to normal. And finally tonight, Area Man tweets, willing to contract the coronavirus for $250K. Will immediately go into self-quarantine as to not spread or infect anyone else. Will document the entire experience daily. Always put my money where my mouth is. Hit me up to negotiate exact terms. Let's do it. This has prompted an interesting discussion of how dangerous is the coronavirus really? How much would your life change if you got it? And I do think you have to take into account your individual situation. For older people or people that have severe respiratory issues, there's definitely a chance this could cause some significant problems for you. But for younger, healthy people, it's going to suck, but it's probably not going to be life-ending. There is another question, though. What happens if many people get it? What happens to hospitals? What happens to healthcare? There are certainly a lot of questions to be asked. But the question I want to ask you guys is, how much would you get paid to get coronavirus? A really uplifting note here to end on. I also want to say thank you guys for dropping in for today's video. If you liked today's video, hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel. We're going to be doing videos. I think Monday to Friday is going to be the goal, so roughly 5 a week. We're going to mainly do news, but mix up every now and then. So if you want to join us for the ride, hit the subscribe button. I'll see you again soon.